Welcome to Stress Reduction by the Trinity River Counseling Team. I am Dr. Osara Iron, and I am one of 3 team members who will be presenting to you about stress reduction. Now, before we can actually talk about stress reduction, we need to actually talk about what stress actually is. Now, stress is a physical, chemical, or emotional factor that causes bodily or mental tension. Now, we really need to say, okay, what is our major stressor? Now, when we talk about something that causes tension within us physically or mentally, we need to actually know what is actually causing the stress. The reason is because before you can actually reduce stress, you need to actually identify what is causing you stress. Now, if we're not able to identify that, then it's going to continue to cause you stress. So it's important to take some time to think about it, be very introspective, and pinpoint what the stressor is. Now, there are also ways that stress can affect the body. Now, we talk about a lot of times, it may be affecting our concentration, potential anxiety, potential depression, and it could just affect our mood in general. But we also need to talk about how it also affects our body. In terms of, you can have higher cholesterol, you can have higher blood pressure. It increases your risk of heart attack or strokes. It can affect your skin, your joints and muscles, your stomach, your immune system. It can really affect your entire body. So stress is not anything to just ignore or to just put it to the side and say, I'm going to take care of it later. It's important to take care of stress right away. Now, what are some ways that we can reduce stress? The first way would be to exercise. During the pandemic, a lot of us have been caught sitting down most of the day. We may say, oh, I'm going to take a walk tomorrow, or I'm going to do some more exercise tomorrow. But it's important to actually do that today. Exercise really helps to reduce your body's stress hormones, which is cortisol. It improves your quality of sleep, and it can help improve your confidence and your health in general. So please get out and just move, do a short walk, a jog, a run, and do something that you can do consistently. Now, what are other ways that stress can be induced? Coffee and caffeine. A lot of people they have their morning coffee, their tea, their energy drinks, but these are considered stimulants. Now, a high amount of these can increase your anxiety. So you need to understand how much coffee or tea or just caffeine in general your body can tolerate. Because if you start feeling jittery, that's when you say, okay, I need to take a step back. You need to reduce it. And so we want to make sure that you have just moderation, right? So coffee has been found to be healthy in moderation. So don't overdo it, don't abuse it. Make sure you're taking enough that can make you feel good, but don't overdo caffeine because we want to make sure that you're healthy. And even more importantly, it's important for you to drink more water.
Thank you, Dr. Iron. My name is Angel Ayala. I'm the veteran counselor here at Trinity River campus, and I'm part of the Trinity River counseling team. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about how we spend our time. So spending time with friends and family is so important. It's a very helpful way for us to reduce stress. One thing that we've really learned a lot about in the past year and during 2020 and during COVID-19 is that we learned how to social distance. But one thing that we didn't know was how much we would be needing our friends and family for connection. And so we want to remind you that connection to positive friends and family can help to reduce stress. Why do we say positive? Well, it's very important to try to stay around positive people who are supportive of you, your physical and mental health. And it is also important to limit your time with people who could be very stressful towards you or cause stress on your life. Another thing we do is we want to know, how can you remain connected to friends and family during the pandemic? Well, that's one thing that we've learned a lot about over this past year, is we've actually learned more ways to stay connected. So we've learned ways to stay connected through Zoom. We've learned ways to stay connected through FaceTime and telephone. We've also gotten very creative. For instance, people have found other ways to remain connected to their family and friends. My neighbors who are an elderly couple, they found a very interesting way. Their family will come over. They will set up lots of chairs in the yard, and the family will actually sit out in the yard. The elderly couple will kind of sit inside the house, and they'll be able to still visit in that way. And they do that in a safe distancing way. So there's a lot of different ways that we can continue to stay connected. And remember, healthy connection can really help to reduce our stress. Next slide, please. Also, it's so important that we take a moment to laugh. Laughter really is the best medicine. So let's talk about a few ways that laughter is very helpful for stress. Well, first of all, in the previous slide, we talked about how during stress can increase muscle tension. And so it can increase tension in areas of your body where you hold your stress. So personally, I hold my stress in my shoulders and sometimes clenched jaw, maybe I might wring my hands. And whenever you laugh, you have an opportunity to relieve muscle tension. And that is just so healthy. Another thing about laughter is that it's really good for the immune system. So earlier we talked about how a stress hormone called cortisol can build up in the body, and laughter is actually a good way to relieve that stress from the body, and it's very good for the immune system. Okay, and so lastly, we're going to ask you a question that you can ask yourself. What do you do to laugh? What are the things that you like to do in your life that really make you laugh, that make you giggle, that you like to cut up about? Some people like to get on, social media like Facebook or Instagram or one of those and look at the memes and the funnies. They really like to share those with friends and family. Some people like to watch certain shows that are funny. Some people like to play games. They like to play practical jokes. It just depends. But, be creative. I know a lot of times we can't go to a lot of the places that we used to be able to go to, but we can still find ways to laugh. And it's so important that we do that. And sometimes we just have to be intentional about it. All right, next slide, please. All right, so this one is very important. This goes out to all my people pleasers out there, okay? And it's okay to say no, all right? And now I'm a self-proclaimed people pleaser myself, and I know how difficult this is. So the first one says saying yes to everything can cause stress, and I know that's very true. There's nothing like having too much on your plate. You already know you have enough on your plate, and then you have one more person come up and say, hey, we need to volunteer for this tomorrow. Can you be there? And you just can't say no, right? So you say yes. And as soon as you say yes, your stress level goes up just a little bit more. You know it's not a good idea because you just double booked yourself. You know what I mean? You double booked Tom and Sally, and you're going to have to figure out a way to figure that out. That causes stress. So it's okay to say no, and it's very important. Now, there are a lot of healthy ways to say no without using the word no. And that's one thing that we do, and we'll use that to feel better about saying no. Like we might say things like, well, I'd rather not, or I have something else going on at that time, things of that nature. So the question here is, why can saying yes to everything cause stress? And I think a lot of us that have been through those situations, we know what it does to us. We know that if we are overly busy, right? Number one, we're not going to be able to be there 100% for those people. We're not going to be able to show up 100% and be 100% authentic and give them all of our energy because we're going to be stressed out and we're going to be worried about the next thing we have to do. Then the second thing is that when we say yes to everything, what that does is it doesn't allow us to focus mainly on the things that are most important in our lives. Okay, and I think that's one of the things that reducing stress is really all about. It's finding a focus, trying to stay focused on the things that are most important. Yes, you're going to have things that come out of nowhere. Can you volunteer to help the Girl Scouts sell cookies or whatever the case may be? And we all want to help do stuff like that. But remember, your friends and family are very important. Who and what you say yes to are very important. These are the things that are going to keep us healthy in the long term. Thank you. Next slide, please. And this is another thing I want to talk to you about, avoiding procrastination. Okay, so I just told you that I'm a people pleaser. I'm also a procrastinator. Okay, so if you're a procrastinator, so you don't feel bad. But procrastination can cause stress, and I'm going to tell you why. It starts to pile up on you. Okay, so if you think about every day that goes by, you have opportunity to get something done. If you're a procrastinator, you know you like to put things off. You've learned the fine art of not doing things at the moment, right? And so you can just say, okay, I'll get that later. Well, as things start to pile up, they don't necessarily go away, right? What they do is they pile up, and in your mind, you're thinking to yourself, oh no, now I have to get another thing done. How am I going to get this done? And so that can cause you a lot of stress, okay? It can affect our sleep and our health. How can it affect our sleep? Well, number one, if you're stressed out during the day and you go to bed after a very stressed out day, you're not going to sleep as well. And number two, you might ruminate about the things that you have to do. And so that's what a lot of people do at night when they're stressed out is they'll sit in bed and they'll ruminate or think in circles about all the things that they have to do that they haven't done yet. And it's like a huge mental to-do list that you're not going to be able to do at night because you're laying in bed. And lots of times we don't end up doing it in the morning anyway, so it just keeps us up at night. And the third thing is it can also affect the quality of our work. So think of it like this. If I'm continuing to get my tasks done, not even if I'm doing them all on time, but if I'm just doing them in a way that just feels right for me, then I can feel like I'm at least keeping up with my work. I can feel good about what I'm doing. If I allow them to build up, not only am I not going to be able to get my current work done as much, but I'm going to fall behind, and so it could really cause a lot of stress. If we look at this in the student aspect, a lot of times if you procrastinate your work projects, I don't know how many times. Okay, I'm gonna tell on myself. As a student, I was up late at night trying to cram for a test that was in the morning, and you can probably imagine I didn't do very well. So that's another reason why we want to provide. I'm sorry, we want to avoid procrastination. All right, next slide, please.
All right. Thank you, Angel. I am another team member at TCC TR Counseling. My name is Mandy Melton, and I want to talk with you a little bit more about this last few pieces to stress reduction. First, I want to talk with you about eating habits. This is a struggle that many of my students and clients have, especially now that our schedules have changed with the pandemic and everything happening. Things happen so quickly. If you've got a busy schedule, it's hard to be intentional with your eating habits, especially when stress arises. It's hard to keep that consistent meal schedule going. Oftentimes people miss meals, which causes the body to work even harder. And you need that strength, especially with stress. So it's important if you can be intentional, if you can schedule ahead of time. When I'm talking with clients and students, I even recommend planning a week in advance, especially if your schedule is very packed and busy. You can plan, on an off day where you have a little bit more time, and you can actually shop for groceries and plan at least a week. And think about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Some of my students tell me that they'll skip certain important meals like breakfast, or some will even skip breakfast and lunch and not eat anything until the very end of the day. And you can imagine when the body is under stress, your body has to work so much harder. So incorporating, nutritious meals is very important. And don't forget, you can work in some favorite dishes, especially people who are struggling with eating. If you just don't have any ideas, start with your favorite dishes, things that you love, maybe things that you've cooked with your family over the years or with your friends, something that you're really drawn to, and incorporate that. That way you're not just, grabbing something at the last minute, like just crackers for the day. You definitely need more nutrition than just a handful of crackers. So incorporate, some protein and I love this picture. It's like a salad dish with an avocado. It just kind of speaks to you, doesn't it? So eating habits are really important. So being intentional. Next slide, please. Also, equally important is getting involved with helping and supporting others. I have many students and clients that I talk with that actually don't think about this as a way of reducing stress. When problems kind of weigh heavy on us, we forget about helping others, right? It's hard to think about supporting other people when we've got a lot on our plate. But it can just be some very simple acts of kindness. It can be something as simple as Angel mentioned his neighbors a while ago, just helping a neighbor out. Could even be something as simple as picking up something for a neighbor, or maybe even writing a letter, sending a text message, just checking in on somebody. For folks who can't get out, especially during this season and time, is there a neighbor, a family member, a friend that you can support in some simple way? So those random acts of kindness make a huge difference. And there are some examples there. I already mentioned a neighbor or friend in need, sending a message, a parent or a grandparent to check in with them, just to let them know that you care. So those very simple things that you do. And, we hear about it all the time. People will get in line, at some place, and they'll pay for the person behind them. And, you can pay it forward in some simple acts. But even if you can't do that, in that respect with money, you can do it definitely with just an act of kindness and supporting someone else in your life. Next slide. Also, it's really crucial to look for hobbies and positive outlets. We need things that bring meaning to our lives, that will free our mind. So let's think about for a minute, what do you enjoy? It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. I have some students that tell me that they love to color or draw. You can get a simple, just color book, and there's all kinds of different ones that you can request. I mean, you can go to the dollar store and find a lot of these tools just very simply, or sometimes you can look at your home and find different supplies that you may have. Also reading. And when we talk about reading, I don't mean just picking up a book. Audio books are great. So if you're tired of actually picking up a book and you're exhausted with reading because you read all the time for school and work, just listen to something. Reading can be very powerful just through the audio version. Also, don't forget about podcasts. That's a great way, and you can connect with a great interest topic that way. Puzzles. I have students that will go and get a really inexpensive puzzle and spend weeks just putting it together. Hidden pictures, music. Don't forget about writing to explore. Writing can be extremely powerful. Journaling your thoughts. I've had even people that will write letters to themselves or to other people in their lives as a way of self-expression. Getting out those feelings helps healing, is what I always like to say. Next slide. And then committing to get some health checks. Whether that's for your physical body with a primary care physician, or connecting with a mental health professional, a counselor, a psychologist, to get checked. When you know yourself better than anyone else, when something doesn't feel right. So it's important to get those wellness checks with your primary care physician, and then connecting with a mental health professional, like I said, a counselor or psychologist. We are licensed professional counselors at TCC, Trinity River Campus. So we offer short-term services. So why not connect with us or someone that you trust in the community to get that support that you need. So think about this. When was your last time that you received a checkup? Just take a moment. Sometimes people will put that off for years, and they'll have things in their body. They'll have some anxiety going on, some other things. So it's important to get that checked, because sometimes the anxiety you're experiencing is something connected with another physical symptom. The depression, anxiety, those things can be related, of course, to stress, but they can be related to physical symptoms and problems too. So following up with that healthcare professional is important to get that support, and the mental health care professional as well. Next slide. And I want to talk with you about deep breathing for a minute. This is something we don't often talk about. Breathing is involuntary. We just breathe, right? Or so we think. We don't think about it as much to be intentional with it. So I want you to take a moment right now, just even a couple seconds, and take a moment to notice how you're breathing. Are you anxious? How are you breathing? Is it slow? Is it fast? Can you feel your heart? Inconsistent short breaths mean that you're not expelling enough carbon dioxide and inhaling enough oxygen. And so actually is recommended, I have a worksheet that I often send to students. I like to send out during sessions or send to them later about what you can do. It's a quick way to think about breathing, to inhale 4 breaths and then hold it 4 breaths and then exhale for 6 breaths. So some people will do it that way, 4, 4, and 6. So inhale for 4, hold for 4, and then exhale for 6. And then I've even had some research and information suggest 5, 5, and 10. So 5, inhale for 5, and hold for 5, and then exhale for 10. So really get a lot of that out. So think about that. So if you haven't been doing anything like that, deep breathing is something that you can do anytime. I mean, even while you're driving, you can get your breath regulated, while you're driving and you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe you're about to take a test and you're anxious. You can incorporate this deep breathing technique in to something right before a test. I suggest it every day if you can, but if you know that there's going to be a particularly stressful time frame that you're going to encounter, or a moment, definitely use this. So it's 4, 4, and 6, or you could try the 5, 5, and 10. So just some tips on that. Next slide, please. And then lastly, we want to really talk to you about being mindful. I just talked about breathing, which is a mindfulness piece, but you can incorporate yoga, stretching, meditation into your daily life. 5 minutes is a good start. You don't have to do anything elaborate. There are so many different ways to incorporate this type of piece in your life. I've had people that will do it at the beginning of a day, or they'll end it, or they'll do it the beginning and the end. So they're like bookends, a start and an end. And really, you don't have to do it for very long. I've had people who struggle, especially with sleep, to do yoga right before they go to bed, to incorporate 10 to 15 minutes of that as a relaxation. And there's so many great videos where you can just Google out there. There's one that I particularly like, Yoga with Adriene, if you want to Google that. And she does several different ones. She'll do one for sleep, one to start your day. She'll do one specifically for anxiety. So there's lots of different ones that you could try out. There's a lot of great yoga instructors out there, but many people, there's a hesitation with this because they say, oh, I have to go and do this in person and go to a yoga studio and do this or that. And I say, no, you can just Google this, and you can do this to start your day, to end your day, anytime that you want to incorporate this. And like I said before, with the deep breathing, you can incorporate yoga into something like if you know that you're about to go into a test or something stressful that you feel that's going to create more stress, put that yoga in there, insert it, don't hesitate to try this. It's very useful. And even if you're unsure about incorporating yoga, do just a few simple stretches. I've had people that will start out by literally, Angel talked about tightening the jaw. You could tighten different parts of the body where you can tighten like your shoulders where you're stressed out, or your arms or your legs. Hold it for a few seconds like you do with the deep breathing, and then let it go. So that's better than not doing anything. So that's another good way to start. If you don't want to try the deep breathing or the yoga, you can try just tensing those muscles real tight and then just literally letting go. And you can do that just anywhere. I mean, sitting at your desk, or even if you're kind of riding in the car. I mean, probably wouldn't suggest doing your legs, but you can do a little bit of the holding of your shoulders or your arms. So it's very flexible. So that is kind of what we had to share with you all today about stress reduction. We would love to hear from you. We've enjoyed kind of sharing a little bit about stress reduction, but we also want to tell you just a little bit about counseling and how to contact us and follow up with us. Again, we would enjoy hearing from you. The best way to contact us is tr.counseling@tccd.edu. And all of us kind of jump on from time to time and monitor that. And so we can respond to you and kind of connect you with the right information and more about our services. We do offer, I mentioned earlier briefly, we do offer personal counseling on a short-term basis. It's usually just a handful of sessions. We can talk with you about that. And we have a lot of community partners that we can refer out to help support you. That's one of our roles. We also offer suspension, dismissal, and financial aid help as well. We are here for you, and we would enjoy hearing from you. We've enjoyed this time. Take care, all.